Good afternoon, dear students, alumni and guests. My name is Professor Grażyna Rębielak, and I represent Warsaw University of Technology Business School, who is the main organizer of the inspirational lectures. On behalf of my university and our business school, I would like to warmly welcome all of you to today's inspirational lecture. I want to welcome students and alumni of our university, Warsaw University of Technology Business School, our partners, our guests, in particular from POLIMI, Graduate School of Management, Politecnico di Milano, the University of Salford in Manchester, BMI Executive Institute in Vilnius and Brussels, Goa Management Institute from India, HEC in Paris, Management Center in Innsbruck, Sheffield Hallam University, the Zicklin School of Business, Baruch College, New York City University, and Krakow School of Business. Today, the inspirational lecture will be delivered by Professor Sergio Terzi, who is representing POLIMI Graduate School of Management, Politecnico di Milano. Professor Terzi is a full professor of industrial technologies at Politecnico di Milano, where he also serves as Associate Dean for International Relations. His main research interests are in the domain of advanced manufacturing, how to make it smarter, cleaner, and more sustainable. So really hot topics. Today, he will deliver a lecture entitled Sustainable and Circular Manufacturing in Europe. Today is our final inspirational lecture this academic year, before the summer break. I would like to wish you a lovely summer break. And I also want to invite you to the next series of our inspirational lectures, which will start in October 2025. You will be sent invitations after summer. Now I want to wish you a good time with Professor Terzi and of course encourage you to ask him questions on chat, and he will respond to these questions at this Q&A session after the lecture. So, Sergio, you are more than welcome to start your lecture.
Thanks again. Thanks for this introduction and for this invitation. It is my pleasure to be, let's say, again with you. And for this time, I've prepared this lecture that in this period I'm, let's say, discussing with many students, professionals, and practitioners. So I hope that I can inspire you. Let's say that's being an inspirational speech. So I've been already introduced. I'm from Politecnico di Milano. I'm working in this big domain of manufacturing. There you see my references. If you want to connect me on LinkedIn, it will be more than my pleasure to be in touch with all of you. So let's start with the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room, that is also in the title of the presentation, is obviously the fact that this is the situation that we are living. What we are used to say is an unsustainable situation, in which we see how our environment has been depleted and is still depleted, and how several of our activities, human activities, could have negative impact in the planet and then in ourselves. This is happening around us. It was foresighted and forecasted years ago. This should be clearly said. Now it's really here. And we know, I mean, it's obviously a kind of discussion that, at least in Europe, is happening also at public level and policy level. Good. Evidently, these situations, and this main situation, is requesting a change. A change that has been already imagined, a change that has been already identified, this should be clearly said. Sustainability, let's make it simple, is not a new topic, not at all. If you believe that is new, sorry, but it's because you were not paying attention to. And that's my favorite definition of sustainable development, that is also one of the most mentioned one, is as being written 40 years ago in the domain of the committee happening at the United Nations level, that later was also published as a book, Our Common Future. The sustainability, as it is often mentioned today, as a domain of three pillars: social sustainability, environmental sustainability, economic one, was already there almost at that time. And it has inspired this. At that time, this was a vision coming from a political evidence that has evidently inspired in the last 40 years several change actions. I'm used, for your knowledge, I'm used to work with several companies here in Italy. Also this morning, I was in a conference with several entrepreneurs and, let's say, and typical Italian companies. And when we talk about sustainability, I see that often for companies seems to be something, how to say, okay, it's something nice to be said, we should talk about, but then later, what we can do, how we can make it happen, what we should do in our manufacturing companies, that is my area of interest, for making it happen. There is almost nothing that we can do, or it's too much difficult to make what should be done. Let's say that personally, I can understand why there is, let's say, that these are some of the thought and some of the discussion, but at the same time, I'm personally convinced that the fact that we don't know how to answer to this question is because we don't know, not because it's not possible. That's something different. And what I would like to explain you in the time that I have, more or less other 30 minutes, is that, okay, there are action, strategies, methods, approaches, tools. So everything that can be done by an engineer like me, and like probably many of you, to make it happen. Before arriving to that, I would like to start with, let's say, this tricky question. You see here, you have two products, two chairs. One is a paper-based coming from recycled carton chair, and the other one is a wood-based chair that probably was done some 100 years ago. And the question is, among the two products that has been designed and manufactured, which is the most sustainable one or the sustainable one? The question is tricky, and now I know that we don't have too much time, so I don't want, let's say, to open a discussion here. I will be in a while out of time, but think for a while on this. Okay, here you have a paper-based chair coming from carton that has been reused. It can be reused. Here you have a wood-based chair. Both of them, they have some level of at least environmental friendliness. That's clear. Not by chance I was not putting, for example, a chair made by plastic, no? But there is a but. Every object, every product, every artifact, every factory, every system is a functional system. It exists for making a function. A chair need for allowing person to sit on, at least this. And functional activities is something that is happening per user along the time. How many paper-based chairs should be needed for allowing the same number of persons that they were sitting during the 400 years on this chair? Probably some dozen. And here there is an important point that often we are not used to think about. Okay, a product, everything that we design and produce, exists over the time. And it's up to us to design this product to last over the time. And we can design, as you see, I'm playing a bit with the picture. This is a chair for kids that has been designed for being used along the life of the person. So evidently, behind this discussion, there is an important concept that is related to our conversation on sustainability. That is time, or better to say, life cycle. For how many years product will be used and will last. That's an important element for defining which will be the most sustainable solution. But obviously not the only one. A sustainable product also is a product based on, for example, reused or recycled material. Obviously, a sustainable product, we know all of us, it's a product that is not polluting in its life. And it is why it seems that electric vehicles could be better, could be more sustainable than, let's say, fuel-based vehicles. So here, as I said, there is an important concept for understanding later what to do for being sustainable. That, as I said, it's a concept of time, or better to say, life cycle. Every product, every artifact, every system, all of us, every product is designed, is produced, is used, is distributed, is used, sometimes is supported, let's say, on its usage, and then, as always, an end of life. And this is the same concept of the life cycle that we see in nature. In nature, everything is growing, let's say, getting mature, being used, and at a certain point, declining. So evidently, life cycle has something to do with sustainability. But how this life cycle should be is still another step to be mentioned. Here, I have another joke. Let's say it's not a joke, another example. Let's imagine to be a car maker. What a car maker can do for becoming more sustainable. There are many actions, what they are called design strategies, that could be implemented. Obviously, and this was already happening, a car maker can redesign part of the car for making the car lighter, so consuming less, for using material that is not dangerous, for using material that is coming from the recycled material. It's a matter of designing parts and components and product. It's also a matter of designing processes. A car maker can have, and is having, a big impact in the sustainability, working on its processes, making its production process more sustainable in the sense that are not polluting and they are more efficient, for example, from an energy point of view. A car maker can decide to change drastically its product, And again, this is what is happening in the market. The redesign of a car that is today happening in the market is coming from that. But it's not only this. A car maker can decide and can work to become more sustainable, redesigning its position in the moving system, in the moving industry. And for example, let's mention this example, promoting car sharing and not just selling cars. And again, this is today happening in the market. You see how many car sharing services has been launched by car makers. Till the point that a car maker, maybe for example, for its employees, can suggest to work on mobility on distance that instead of going in the office, rethinking the mobility needs. So these are just quick example. And if you take a while and you think for yourself, you will see that today in the market, there are examples, so companies that have already implemented many of these actions. Better to say that they have implemented many of these strategies. So sustainability for a manufacturing company that is my interest is something that could happen if it is designed to happen. If in the life cycle of the product, there are design and manufacturing strategies that deliberately, let's say, give the possibility, are used for doing what? For being more sustainable. And it must be said that here there is nothing to be invented in some way. There is a lot to be adapted and adopted. But the good point is that we have almost 40 years of experience, and not by chance you can find many books about this. Other important point, being back to the concept of life cycle. As I said, life cycle is a concept coming from nature, no? But how it is really the life cycle in nature? The life cycle in nature is a closed system, is a closed chain. And here we have a clear evidence. If we want to take our economic model that is based on designing and producing and using product, the only way to make it more sustainable is to follow the natural way. That is that one of closing this life cycle. Then practically speaking, what does it mean? Mean implementing all the end of life cycle strategies that are allowing the possibility to close such a loop. So reusing component, recycling material, recovering as much as possible what is possible to recover. Here, evidently, we are in the domain of waste management. That's clear. We are saying that every product, every system has an end of life, and in this end of life is becoming waste. In nature, a waste is going back to the nature. For our product and our system, it's up to us to close that loop in some way. This is, again, nothing new. It's what, since some years, is called the circular model. That, obviously, it's a model, it's a way of managing our systems that is not happening by chance. For almost 200 years, we have used it to work in an open way. Since some years, we have evidences that should be better as much as possible to close our system. This concept today, at least in Europe, has taken a name, that is that one of circular economy. It's more than 15 years that we are talking about this. Let's say that today, in the last 4 or 5 years, circular economy, for sure, has been identified as the reference terminology and paradigm in some way for restructuring our way of doing business. Okay, that is actually based on what I was telling you so far. For becoming more sustainable, we should move, at least in product design and production, our system to be more closed. European Commission, for Europeans, should be clear, has invested a lot on this, is still investing a lot. Behind there is obviously a vision. A vision that in Europe is quite well considered and adopted. Many industries in our system, in our domain, has implemented or are implementing this closed approach. But it's not like this everywhere, this should be said. So this long, let's say, introduction for moving from sustainability to circularity, let's say. Then, as I already said at least twice, sustainability is not new, strictly speaking. I'm not the first one talking about sustainability for sure. And I guess also for talking to you, I mean. And in fact, around us, we have many examples of good and possible sustainable practices. And sustainability, in some way, today is a big discipline. It's a discipline itself. For example, in my school, not by chance, we have masters in sustainability, programs in sustainability. That I know, anyhow, as a domain is quite broad. And also this morning when I was talking with some companies, let's say, some, better to say, owners of some companies, it's normal to find person that, okay, when they talk about sustainability, they have at least some unclear view on that. They have at least some question on what is not, and how it should be made. And this is also, in some way, coming from the evidence that there are many ways, many approaches, many projects, many methods, many tools that could be used for becoming sustainable or more sustainable. I have to say that personally, I've invented a quick metaphor that I would like to share with you quickly before moving to a final step. It is this metaphor. Let's imagine that you are asked, you would like to open your business, your restaurant. As you know, a restaurant is a business, obviously, in which you will serve your menus and receipt to your customer. For being able to work your restaurant should use and have some tools, the kitchen. But the restaurant itself could be based on different way of doing, different location, habits. And obviously, there are many restaurants. So for attracting the customers, you should communicate what is your restaurant, what your restaurant is doing. And behind this, let's say, view, there are, not by chance, many books, many types of menus, many type of kitchens, many type of tools, many possibilities of arranging your restaurant as you want, many channels for communicating. Sustainability is the same as a discipline, I mean. Sustainability, not being a new topic, has a lot of rules, standards, frameworks, regulations that are different, that they are based on some basic elements, but for several reasons, most of them historical, let's say, they are proposing different menus, different recipes of sustainability. And personally, I don't have element to say that one is better than another one. I cannot say that the Italian cuisine is better than the Japanese one. It's just a matter of who will be your customer in your restaurant, right? As well, in sustainability, like in a kitchen, there are a lot of tools. There are tools for measuring, for defining, for experimenting, for automatizing, for performing and achieving some efficiency, and so on. Then, and it's something that I know by experience often is making this topic very complex to the audience, in sustainability, there are many different habits There are many frameworks. And again, there is no one better than another one. I cannot say that this restaurant is better than this one, generally speaking. I can just say that this restaurant seems to be better for me than this as a customer. Last important point, sustainability should be communicated. And in the years, many ways for communicating sustainability has been created, till the point that today European Commission is trying to define some limit to that. But this is another discussion. So I've invented this metaphor, as I said, for explaining normally to practice-oriented, let's say, class and groups, that sustainability is a big topic in which many elements should be considered, and honestly speaking, for which each institution, company, association, whatever you want to do, to say, could find its way. This should be clear. There is not just one way of doing. Then, obviously, it's really, obviously, in this domain, it's really important, and many companies are doing, to explain what they are doing. And it is why we can find many environmental progress report, sustainability report, and whatever. Sorry, here was putting some picture from, for example, in this period, I'm working with this company that is a big multinational company with the headquarters in Italy that is investing a lot in its journey towards sustainability. And every year, not by chance, is reporting what it's doing. So, first message about how to make it. No, as I said at the beginning, there is a question about how to make sustainability. First recommendation, find your way using some of and identifying the proper recipe for you, the proper tools for you, the proper framework for you, knowing that others, they already did. This should be said. Other important point that I would like to add to this discussion is that in 2025, we have in our folder, let's say, we have some arrows to be used. And this main arrow is this one, technological progress. In particular, which type of technological progress I'm interested in? That one of digitalization. This is not just my idea. In Europe, you can find, not by chance, many initiatives, events, organizations, often in some way politically supported, publicly supported, that they are promoting a transition, a sustainable transition for Europe to be supported by a digital transition. This is what is today often said in short, the twin transition. But then again, in practice, what does it mean for companies to become more sustainable using some digital solutions, or, as political persons are saying, adopting twin transition? Here I have my personal answer, and my personal answer is that this is evidently rooted in the big transformation that is happening in our society, being pushed by technological and digital revolution. To this, we have given several names in the last 10 years, no? From 4 to 5. I don't want to spend time today on the different what is 4 and 5. It must be noticed that this transformation is something that has been codified years ago. It must be said also as a kind of reaction to the big financial crisis that was happening almost 14 years ago. And that step by step has evolved in what, generally speaking, we have called the new industrial revolution that we are living in our society today. It's the fifth one I will leave this to the historian to say. For sure, again, what is clear at least at political level, and as well also at market level in some way, is that in Europe we would like to promote more and more the adoption of digital solution for allowing our also sustainable transformation. Then, when we talk about digital solution, it might be said that we should talk about many systems, many artifacts, many technologies, not by chance. Here I'm just putting pictures about. It's not the time today in this lecture to explain the different technologies. Each of that technology has a story behind, normally lasting some decades. We are at the point in which we are today thanks to the huge work that was done in the last decades. For sure, the domain in which we are today, it's a domain, it's led by technology, digital technology, in which our technology are more and more in our hands. They have a lot of computing power. They are giving us the possibility to be fully connected, and they are giving us also the possibility to virtualize and visualize everything before that is existing. But said this, in an essence, what the digital technologies are doing, and then later we'll see why they can be useful for sustainability. I would like to make a long story short. Digital technologies, or ITs, you want to call it as you want, are first used for doing something very practical, collecting data, 0 and 1, and then transforming such data in knowledge. Collecting them in a way, in a computer, that will give the possibility, is giving the possibility to reuse, adapt, transform, empower such data. Other important point, technology are giving us the possibility to interact among us in different way. On distance collaboration is just the evidence of that. Third point, technologies are giving us the possibility to be connected among us and to be connected with objects. And then today, guys, with your smartphone, you can monitor what is happening in your home, right? And as well, we can monitor what is happening in our machine installed in the other side of the planet. It was always like this? No, as we know, it's something that has been codified in the last decade. Other important point, digital technologies are giving us the possibility to invent, generate, define, perform, analysis, simulate everything or almost everything before that is existing. Last, digital technologies are not just in the computer, let's say, they are close to us, till the point that today we interact with robots, even if we don't know that they are robots. But all these pictures that you see here are example of automatization of tasks that for hundreds of years has been done just by humans, and instead today they can be done by a mix of humans and machines. So here there is a possibility, thanks to what these digital technologies do, there is the possibility that often in Europe is called the sweet spot of supporting, enabling sustainability thanks to some of these digital solutions. But as I said before, as I said before, sustainability, practically speaking, is based on what? How a manufacturing company could become more sustainable. As I was mentioning my example of the cars before, a company could become more sustainable if it's implementing some sustainable design strategies. If it is changing how the products are designed, if it is changing the production processes, if it is changing how the system are composed, and so on. Now, how the digital solution that I was mentioning could be useful for sustainability. Here there is this slide that for me is quite important. You see, these are the capabilities that I was mentioning before. Digital solutions exist for doing what? For supporting data and knowledge management, enable virtual communication, monitoring resources, generate alternative, and automatize tasks. Now, which are the main sustainable strategies? I was mentioning some of them. I was mentioning all of them, sorry, but here they have in order. For becoming sustainable, first, every economic actor should change the way in which it is generating impact, reducing it. Let's be practical. The first step for being sustainable is to reduce, avoid any or the most form of pollution, emissions, and what generally speaking are called negative impact. The second, fully connected to this, is to close the loop. Doing what? Enabling some art strategies, reusing material, components, system, recycling, recovering, and so on. This is the main message of circularity. No? There is also a third aspect. Sustainability. We can be more sustainable doing what? Using better what we have, increasing its productivity. And one way of increasing productivity often is to adopt the most proper technology. This is clearly evident in energy. New energy systems are much more efficient than old energy systems. So a way to be more sustainable is that one of increasing the productivity of our energy systems. Doing what? Adopting new technologies. Sustainability is also sometimes a matter of changing the way in which we work with the market. And an example that I was already mentioning before, maybe instead of selling cars, I can rent them. This is a change in our business model. Now, these are in short what are called the sustainable strategies. These are in short what digital technologies do. The sweet spot is in the middle. And honestly speaking, there are a lot of sweet spots. How can I reduce the impact of my factory, for example? But again, some example coming from the practice. The first step for many companies that they would like to reduce the impact of their factories and increase the efficiency of their energy is to monitor how they are using energy. Dot. Seems to be something too much simple to be said, but it's the real life. The first step to be done is to monitor our resources. If in the past this monitoring was difficult, when I'm saying difficult, we have to imagine many persons just there filling data sheet. Today, thanks to several technologies, it's much easier to collect information from the field. Thanks to the sensors, thanks to the adoption of some tools for analyzing data. But again, also enabling virtual remote communication is a solution that gives us a way to reduce the impact or to increase the productivity. When we have to design new products, starting from reuse and material components and systems, we should start from what? From the knowledge that we have from past projects, and we should use as much as possible our capability to invent new solutions. And this is actually what, for example, all the tools of digital engineering, virtual prototyping, call as you want, digital manufacturing also said, are actually enabling. Obviously, and I can stay probably hours on this, but now time is almost done. Obviously, as I said, in short, this is what technologies can do. These are, in short, what should be done for being sustainable or becoming more sustainable in a manufacturing domain, strictly speaking. Obviously, this connection, let's say, that I'm drafting here, exists if somebody is seeing them. So my personal opinion, but this is just my personal opinion on which I have to say I don't have empirical data, at least so far, is that companies, let's talk about companies, first, they should have clearly in mind their sustainable strategies. First, let's make it simple. First, a company has should have the need to reduce its impact and should have taken the decision, for example, of redesigning its product in a more sustainable way, for example, using recycled material. And this is a sustainable decision, a sustainable strategy decision. Then the good point is that technology, in particular some of these tools, could provide a support to that, are enablers of some of these. I guess, but this is just my personal guess, that the other way around is not so effective for achieving sustainability. In that sense, I fully agree with the typical, let's say, description or definition often used, let's say, in the domain of European Commission, that our future should be green and digital, not the opposite, let's say. What I said is happening around us. This should be said. There are many companies also in the manufacturing, or better, many of them in the manufacturing, that are actually playing these games. Here I was putting some data from several associations about the top 10 companies for sustainability. These are data from 2023, sorry. And if you see, practically most of them are manufacturing companies. And for me, it's nice to see how very traditional, in some way, manufacturing companies, here there is a typical European company, a French one, its origin, but is a multinational European company, is playing its games on sustainability, being very practical and actually adopting some of the design strategies, some of the sustainable strategies, better, that I was mentioning before. This means that what I said is possible. Obviously, it should be clear that sustainability, that is a big concept, is based on a journey. It's not something that today you do, and it's done. But you start from a step, and you should scale up over the stairs. It must be said that which are the first steps to be done? This should be clear. The first step is that one of managing, reducing, avoiding all the negative impact that or negative externalities. This is the basic that, honestly speaking, for many years we have not paid so much attention. This should be said. I can stay hours on this discussion, sorry, but I see that the time that was granted is almost next to the end, or it's already ended probably. So I guess that is better to stop here. And as you see, I've stopped just the sharing. In this way, I can see who is there, and if you have any question or comment. Well, maybe just final remark. on everything that you have seen, so I was doing my lecture trying to be inspirational, maybe sometimes provocative. I can tell you that behind all these elements, at least for us, we have projects. So we have projects running with companies, European project, training project as well, in which we try to make in practice these. So, and it's based on this project. I have my I have developed my personal opinion on what should be the first step. So personally, after some years, I'm fully convinced that first should come the decision of being more sustainable. Second, technology could be a good enabler. I have some doubt on the other way around. But as I said, I was already talking too much, so I'm stopping here, and I would like to see if there is any question or comment or whatever. Sorry, I cannot. Thank you for this. Okay, thanks for the comment. If there is any question, it will be more than my pleasure to try to answer, or at least to give my answer. Maybe I was running too fast. Any research led for SDG alignment between transition? I don't know. Sorry if it is a question or a comment. I have honestly to admit. Or maybe it's just a comment. So if it is a comment, let's say that I'm reading the text, I can tell you my opinion. I personally believe that yes, all the action, also the research action that we are doing, they have an impact on the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. I cannot imagine today any research action, but also practical action that should not be aligned to. Any suggestion for us to do research? I mean, it's there are a lot of research. I mean, just for your knowledge, I'm working in a research group of 73 persons. I'm one of the 4 full professor of the group, and I guess that more than half of our PhD candidate and research fellow, they are working on several projects on sustainability and digitalization. So there is plenty of work to be done. There is plenty of work to be done, let's say, from a technological evolution. This is always possible. We can always invent and test and experiment new technologies. For example, in my lab, one of the projects that we are running that is led by one of my researchers is about the adoption of collaborative automation for dismantling electronic control boards and for allowing a better recycle or reusage of one of the biggest waste that today exists. That is that one of the electronic waste. But as well, there are many different other type of research that can be done. For example, another one of my PhD now, she is finishing. She should discuss the thesis by the end of this year on how the textile, in particular the silk industry, should change, or better, should change. Let me make simple, to become more sustainable. And there, most of the recommendation are recommendation at business level, not at technical level. So there are plenty of research that are happening and could happen. So thanks for your comment. I don't know if there is any other request, comment, suggestion as well, a question. If not, I guess that I can stop here. I was not receiving any other information, so I cannot see the participants, sorry. Oh, attendees. Okay, sorry. Will any suggestion? Will be this PPT be shared? From my side, yes. So far, I was not sharing this with. Yes, I will. I don't know through which channel, but from my side, there are no secrets here. More we talk about this stuff, better it is. Okay, I guess that for me, I guess it makes sense to stop here. Thanks again for the invitation. I hope that you have enjoyed the presentation. For the rest, I would like to wish you a good evening, and I guess that we can stop here.